Hello everyone, welcome to my new tutorial series where we're going to build the iconic X-Wing fighter from the Star Wars franchise. If you are new to the channel, I invite you to join the crew and support the imagination by hitting like, subscribe, and the notification bell. It's a free way you can help support the channel as well as be notified when new content is delivered by the imagination. Now, welcome aboard, and if you find this tutorial helpful, please let me know by leaving a comment below. Now, let's get started by building the fuselage of the iconic X-Wing fighter from the Star Wars Saga. Okay guys, let's go ahead and delete everything by hitting A and delete. And first thing we need to do is we need to put in the reference planes for the X-Wing. If you don't have the import feature enabled for reference planes, let's go ahead and go to Edit, Preferences, Add-ons, and over here in the search thing, just type in planes. You need to make sure that you have import, export, import images as planes enabled. Make sure this little checkbox is checked. Then just click refresh, close it. You may or may not need to close and reopen Blender. If you do, go ahead and do so. Okay, so once you've done that, then we should be able to go to File, Import, Images as Planes. In your tutorial files directory from the files you download from the Dropbox, you should be able to find the planes folder. We've got 5 files in here. They're all PNGs. Select all of them. Import images as planes. As you can see, we have 5 squares here. What you need to do is that while we're in solid mode right now, you need to go to this little drop down arrow here at the top. And on color, we need to switch it from material to texture. As you can see, we have our reference planes for multiple views of the X-Wing fighter. First thing we want to do is we want to set all these on the, just basically we want to center all of them right here. So what we're going to do is just going to go one by one, select the bottom, bring out this little arrow up here, set X to 0. Same thing with this one, X to 0. Oops, not Y, X to 0. And X to 0. Okay, so we have everything set in the center here. Everything's set to 0. Now what we want to do is we're going to go up here. We're going to select the back and the front. Just kind of look down the. Let's go ahead and just click down the x-axis. We're going to hit R to rotate, x-axis, hold Control, and we're just going to rotate this counterclockwise. Now, as you can see, we have to turn off the back just so you can see the front. You can see the front of the X-Wing. Go and turn the back on. Okay, so we have that. So now what we want to do is we want to select the side. Just to make this a little easier, I'm going to turn off all the others for right now. So all I can see is the side of the X-Wing. What we want to do is look down the Z-axis, hit R, hit Z to rotate on the Z-axis. Good. Then what we want to do is we're going to look down the y-axis, hit R to rotate, y-axis, hold Control, and rotate it clockwise. So now we have the side of the ship. If we want to, just go ahead and turn on the back and the front. So far so good. Let's go ahead and turn those all off. Let's turn on the bottom and the top, which are already in place where they need to be. What we're going to do is actually going to go turn on everything. And I mean, while some people like to use their reference planes like this, I like to space them out just so I can see what I'm doing better with the geometry. So what we're going to do, actually first what we're going to do is we're going to select all of them. We're going to hit S to scale and we're going to hit 9 just to make them nice and big. Then we're going to zoom out, going to look down our Z-axis, and as you can see, we have the grid here and we have these larger squares in the grid. What we're going to do is we're going to select the front, hit G, Y-axis, hold Control, and this is the front. We're bringing it towards the back of the ship. You'll see why in here in a minute. Same goes for the back. We're going to select the back up here. Going to hit G and then Y-axis, hold Control, drag it down here. So as you can see, there's the front. There's the back. Then we're going to do the same thing with the side. Look down our Z-axis. Hit G, X-axis. Bring this out, holding Control so it snaps in place. Now we need to move the top and bottom. So we're going to click the bottom. Going to look down our x-axis. Hit G, z-axis. Hold control, bring it up. And same thing with the top. Hit G, z-axis. Hold control, bring it down. All right, so we have 5 different views. I mean, the X-wing is pretty symmetrical and everything, so we don't need a side over here. I mean, unless you really want to, you can. I mean, the way you do that is you just select this side, look down the Z-axis, hit Shift-D, hit G, X-axis, bring it over here holding control, and then you have the sides both ways. I mean, I'm pretty sure the X-wing's a little symmetrical. I mean, if you really looked at like a studio scale model or something from ILM, I'm sure there's probably minor differences and everything, but that's not what we're going for today. We're going for fairly simple and, a tutorial that can hopefully be completed within a few hours. I mean, you guys are free to, take this tutorial and build upon it and make yourself a photorealistic, screen accurate version of the X-wing. And if you do, more power to you. Please just at least be sure to hashtag me or do an imagination on Instagram or wherever you post it, because I absolutely love seeing what people get or take from my tutorials and everything. I love seeing that people are learning things, because that's what these are here for. Anyways, for my own purposes, I'm going to go ahead and delete this side view here because I feel like sometimes it gets in the way. So, okay, so we have our plane set up, and we're going to rename this collection Planes. And I'm going to go to the little funnel up here, click down, click on this arrow here, and that way I can disable this collection so I don't accidentally select or bump anything. Everything stays where it's supposed to. Now, I mean, what we can do and what we will be doing in the tutorial later on is sometimes if I want to be able to see a certain view, like if I'm looking down the y-axis and all I can see is the back view, but I need the front view, I can turn off the back and see the front view. You guys can kind of figure out the rest from there. So either way, you'll see as we go throughout the tutorial. All right, so let's start building some geometry. So what we're going to do first is we're going to select the scene collection here. We're going to add a new collection. We're going to rename this to X-wing. You just double click the name to be able to change the name. Now let's go ahead and add a cube. Shift A, cube. And we're just going to start let's hit Alt Z to turn on X-ray mode. I'm going to scale this down by hitting S to scale, and then we're going to do S to scale, Y-axis, scale it out. We're just going to kind of hit G, Y-axis, bring it down this way a bit. Just getting the general shape of the X-wing here. Now this is a little tricky because the X-wing, it's not like a perfectly square fuselage or anything like that. It's going to be a little tricky, so just kind of bear with me. Actually, one thing we will do, we will go ahead, hit Tab, hit Control R to split this down the middle. Make sure and hit Escape, that this line doesn't go either way. And we'll look down our Y-axis and hit 3 to go to Faces mode. Delete Faces. And by the way, I realized I hit 1 and went into Vertices mode earlier. Just if you need Vertices mode, just remember 1 is Vertices mode, 2 is Edges mode, and 3 is Faces mode. Now I might sometimes say line mode because I'm an Adobe Illustrator user, and people say lines and vector points and that. So just in case, if I ever say vector points or lines, remember I mean vertices and edges. It gets a little confusing sometimes. Okay, so anyways, I'm sorry I'm rambling here, guys. Let's go to our modifier properties, add modifier, mirror, and make sure and turn on clipping. So now anything that we do on this side will be mirrored on this side, and it makes it just a little less tedious. So we're going to look back down our x-axis. We're going to hit 1 to go into vertices mode. You're going to hit Control R, bring it down here. There's kind of a little line right here. We're just going to line it up there. And then we're going to make another line here. Kind of lines up with this area of the cockpit right here, this line right here. And then we're going to hit Control R, running horizontally, and we're going to bring it down to this line running along the side of the fuselage. Actually, one of the things we need to do is we need to hit 3 to go into faces mode. We're going to select these faces right here on top. Look back down the x-axis. Hit E to extrude. Bring it up. We're going to hit 1 to go to vertices mode. Select just this vertice right here. Make sure that you're in X-ray mode so that you're selecting both of these. If you ever need to at any point, I mean, remember, you can pause the tutorial. You can shut me up at any time. So you can stop and make sure, you've got everything, got everything. Remember, you guys aren't having to keep up with me. I mean, you can pause me at any time. I'm sure you get tired of hearing my voice after a while. I know I get tired of hearing my own voice, and a lot of people do. Anyways, let's get back to work here. So let's look back down our x-axis. So we have these vertices selected. Hit G, y-axis, bring this back here. And then we're going to hit Control R. Now notice how this is crooked. One of the things we can fix that is we want this to line up on, we want all these vertices to line up on the y-axis, or we want to scale them on the y-axis. And one of the ways you can do it is S to scale y-axis. And notice how they kind of narrow. One of the best ways to do this is hit S to scale y-axis 0. And that lines up all of these perfectly. So what we're going to do is, with all these new vertices selected, we're going to hit G, y-axis, bring it up to about here where it kind of lines up here. Notice that this is the fuselage right here, the bottom part. We're actually going to select these vertices, hit G, z-axis, bring it down. I just realized we need to select these vertices, hit G, y-axis, bring them back a bit. Just right now, as you can see, we're just kind of tracing what we have here so far. And before we do too much, I'm going to look down the x-axis, because notice we have kind of a hexagonal shape here. So what we're going to do is we're going to select this vertice right here, hit G, x-axis, bring it out. And we're just going to kind of line these up as best we can. I'm going to select this vertice here, hit G, x-axis, and just line it up along this line as best you can to where it kind of overlaps on this line here, or edge. Same thing goes up here, hit G, x-axis, bring it out. See, it's already starting to kind of look like an X-wing, guys. Gonna go back down our x-axis, hit Alt-Z. Remember, Alt-Z is X-ray mode, and it's very, very useful. So what we're gonna do is select these vertices here, still with the X-ray mode on. We're going to hit, actually what we're going to do is we're going to rotate. We're going to rotate on the x-axis. So we're going to hit R and X to rotate on the x-axis. We're going to rotate this just to make sure this line here stays nice and flat. We're going to S to scale it. Just remember, as best you can. Okay. And just for humor, I'm going to select these vertices running along the side here on the center line. Just want to make sure that these stay level with each other. So with all of them selected, I'm going to hit S to scale, Z-axis, 0. So that we have a nice solid edge here along the side of the X-Wing. Okay, so now what we need to do is we need to look down our Z-axis by clicking the blue Z. And for right now, I'm going to turn off the bottom view of the X-Wing, Alt-Z, back into X-ray mode. And then what we're going to do is select these outer vertices, hit G, X-axis, bring them in. Same thing here, bring these in. Just kind of follow along here as best you can. Remember, you can pause at any time so you can catch up, and then just resume at any time. So as you can see, we're starting to kind of take shape already. Look back down our Z-axis. I'm going to select this vertice right here, make sure we got the one on top. And sometimes if it gets confusing, what you see through the top or the bottom views and everything, remember you can always select, actually let's go into faces mode by hitting 3. I'm going to select these faces here, hit H to hide them, hit Z, look back down, and so whatever vertices we have here should be on top. So we're going to select this vertice here, hit G, X-axis, lines up nice and neat. And then when you're ready, you can just hit Alt-H and it brings it right back. Everything you just hit, it just brings it right back. So, okay, so top's looking pretty good. I think what we'll go ahead and do is go ahead and add in the cockpit canopy. So what we're going to do is hit Tab, go back into Edit mode, hit 3, go to Faces mode, select these faces here, right in the middle here. If we look down our x-axis, you can see that these are kind of the bottom edges of the canopy. And I realize we need to do a little bit more tweaking on the geometry. So we're going to deselect those. One, go back into vertices mode, select this vertice right here, hit G, Z-axis, bring it up. It's funny, the X-Wing has a very distinct shape to it, and you don't really realize it until you're trying to reproduce one. I'm going to just bring this down a bit, Z-axis. Okay, let's go ahead and zoom back out, take a look, looking good. All right, now let's try this again. Hit 3, go to Faces mode, select these two faces, look down our x-axis, hit E to extrude, Z-axis, S to scale, Z-axis, go ahead and hit set to 0, and Alt-Tab back into X-ray mode. And we're just going to bring all these down, hit G, Z-axis, select this. Remember, make sure you're still in X-ray mode. Hit G, Y-axis. Just going to bring these vertices up a bit. Now remember, on these, reference planes, I mean, get as close as you can. I mean, I know it's not, not going to be perfect and everything, but as best you can. I mean, this is just to make sure that we keep some sort of sense of proportion to the X-Wing. I mean, this way you keep from having an X-Wing that has gigantic lasers or it's way too long or something like that. Looks like it may have had a few too many of those special pills. Anyways, let's select these vertices right here. Hit G, Z-axis, bring it down. Okay, we need to refine the shape of our canopy a little bit, so we're going to look down the Y-axis. We need to turn our back view off, so that way we can see our front view. And what we're going to do right now is make sure you're selecting this vertice right here. Here, just look down the x-axis so you can see better for reference purposes. Look down our y-axis, hit G, x-axis, bring it in. You can just kind of see we're lining it up on these lines here. I'm going to select this vertice right here, so you can see it's the back here, the back of the canopy. And now we're going to turn our back view back on and turn our front view off, because we're going to look down, actually we're going to look down the y-axis. Actually, we're going to click the Y again so we can flip around. Okay, so hit G, x-axis. Okay, so we've got the basic shape of the canopy in. Now we're going to add the tip of the X-Wing. Just the tip. Okay, look down the x-axis. We're going to hit E to extrude, S to scale. Bring this out a bit. Then we're going to E to extrude, y-axis. Bring this down. And S to scale. I'll tell you, we're going to S to scale y-axis 0. And just hit G, kind of basically get this as close as we can. Hit 1, x-axis, select this vertice right here. Actually, we need to select both of these. So remember, we need to turn back on X-ray mode, look back down our x-axis, select, make sure, yeah, both of them are selected. I mean, if one was selected, you'd see this, and we don't want that. So we're going to select this, make sure both of them are selected again. We're going to kind of just move around so we can see. And what we're going to do is we're actually going to go up here, and on snapping, we're going to set to Vertex. And then we're going to click this little magnet here. Hit G, Z-axis, and you notice if we do this, whenever we get close to a vertice of any kind, it snaps it to it. What we want to do is we want to snap it to this one here. Okay, go and turn the magnet back off. Okay, we're going to Control R, and we're going to do 3 edge loop cuts here. Hit extrude, bring this out. S to scale on the Z-axis. G, Z-axis. And then 1, select this vertex right here. Hit G, Y-axis, bring it out, and just try to shape it as best you can. And then what we're going to do is we're going to select these vertices here and these vertices here, S to scale, Z-axis, and just shape it as best you can, S to scale. We're going to look down our Z-axis, just to kind of fine-tune things a bit. Select this corner here, hit G, X-axis, hit G, X-axis, G, X-axis, select, G, X-axis, select. Just like I said, just kind of fine-tuning as best we can. Okay. Looking pretty good. We got the fuselage built out mostly. We need to make a little opening here in the back, but we need to add a few more cuts. So what we're going to do is look down our X-axis. We're going to hit Control. Actually, let's see. Let's go in. Let's hit Alt-Z, go back into X-ray mode. We're going to hit Control-R, and let's just let that cut sit right there. And then we're going to hit Control-R. Actually, let's see. Let's look down our Z-axis. Yeah. Okay, so what we're going to do is make some more cuts. We're going to hit Control-R. Bring this up here to line up with this little line right here, as you can see. And then likewise down here, Control-R. Bring this down. So what it is, we need to make a little opening in the side of the fuselage for the wings. So I'm going to hit 3, go into Faces mode. Let's go ahead and Alt-Z out of X-ray mode. Select these right here. Make sure we don't have on our snapping or anything. We're going to hit Eat Extrude, and then we're going to bring this in on the X-axis by hitting X. We're going to hit S to scale, X-axis, 0. And there. Now on both sides we have a little opening for where the S falls, I think is what they call them, to extrude from. But we'll do that later. Let's see, before we make any other adjustments, I just realized I need to tweak our geometry just a little bit. Let's look down our Y-axis, hit Tab to go in Edit mode, and Alt-Z to go into Vertices mode. Notice here how this isn't quite lining up here, so what we need to do is hit 1, go in Vertices mode, select this vertice here, hit G, and just move this up here a bit, just freely without selecting any of the axes. There. Now we have more of a hexagonal shape here. It's a very important detail of the X-Wing. Okay, so now we have, more of a hexagonal shape to the back of the ship. What we're going to do is hit 3, go into Faces mode, Alt-Z, turn off or turn on X-ray mode. Select all of these faces here, H to hide, Alt-Z out of X-ray mode. Select these faces here. Now we'll look down our Y-axis, and let's see, Alt-Z back into X-ray mode. Now we're going to Eat Extrude, S to scale, bring this down a bit. And you may have to kind of tweak it a little bit. So let's see, I'm just going to hit G, X-axis, bring this in. Just try to line this up as close as you can. Let's select these vertices here, these vertices, hit G, X-axis. Actually, no, let's not do that. With these two selected, we're going to select this one as well. Hit G, X-axis, just bring it in a bit, line up as close as you can. Okay, hit 3, select these faces here. We'll look down our Z-axis. As you can see, this is the top of the ship. We're going to hit G, Y-axis, bring this out. Now we have just kind of this nice beveled edge here. Okay, with these faces still selected, let's look back down our Y-axis. Alt-Z, X-ray mode. Let's click the Y again so we can get a better view. Eat Extrude, S to scale. Let's just kind of move things around. Hit G and then X-axis. Bring this in. And then Alt-Z. There, Eat Extrude this. Bring it in just a bit. And then that's the back of the X-Wing. As you can see, when I hit Tab to go out of edit mode, it brings the ship back. What we want to do is hit Tab again. And we're going to hit Alt-H, and that brings back the geometry. Okay, let's add, our pilot needs to be able to see. So let's add some windows to the cockpit. So with the fuselage selected, we're going to hit Tab. And let's see, let's look down our x-axis, Alt-Z, bring on X-ray mode. We're going to Control R. We're just going to bring this up just past where that window ends. We're going to stop right about there. Now what we want to do is hit 3, go into Faces mode, Alt-C, turn off X-ray mode because we don't need it right now. Okay, so we're going to add some windows here. So we're going to select these two faces. Make sure you're in Faces mode by hitting 3. So we're going to select these two faces selected. And up here on our transform orientation, let's go from global to normal. Let's go ahead and instead of having it on median point, let's do it on individual origins. Let's do that inset again. Inset. So it's doing that just a little bit better. Now we're going to do S to scale, Y-axis. Bring these in a bit. We're going to just do a little tweaking. I'm going to select this face alone, hit G, Y-axis, kind of bring it down a bit. Okay, looking good. Then we're going to select this face here and this face here. We're going to do an extrusion. So we're going to do Eat Extrude, S to scale. So we're going to select this face here, S to scale it individually. Just going to select this face here, hit G, X-axis. Actually, I have to remember we're in normals mode. So what we want to do is let's go ahead just to get rid of any confusion. Let's go from normals back to global. Hit G, X-axis, bring this over. Okay, so we have the beginnings of our windows. So let's go ahead and select all of these. Go back to normals on your transform orientation. Okay, Eat Extrude. We want to go the opposite way and just bring these in, just inset them just a little bit. So as you can see, you should be able to see some nice recessed windows here. We just about have the fuselage built. Let's go ahead and select this right here. Look down the Z-axis and let's Alt-Z, go back into X-ray mode. And let's see, let's make sure the top is on, the bottom is off. Actually, let's go ahead, Alt-Z back out of X-ray mode. And just to make it a little easier to see, let's go ahead again, hit Alt-Z back into X-ray mode, Tab to go to edit mode, 3 to go to Faces mode if you're not already. Look down our X-axis, whoops. Okay, X-axis. Select all these bottom faces, hit H to hide. Now if we look down our Z-axis, it should be a little easier to see what we're doing. Actually, you know what? Let's see here. Let's go ahead and hide all of these faces. Let's make sure we're back. We're still in X-ray mode. We don't need to hide these. We just want to hide everything that's below this line of faces right here. So we're going to hit H to hide. Look down the Z-axis. Okay, much better. Okay, so we're going to select all these faces here. Going to just kind of move around so you can see what we're doing. These are all the faces behind this little beveled area, between the beveled area and the back window of the cockpit. What we're going to do is go back, look down the Z-axis, Alt-Z, and we're going to Eat Extrude, S to scale. Just bring this down a bit. We're going to kind of tweak a bit. We're going to hit G, X-axis, whoops, other X-axis. Again, just to get rid of any confusion, we're going to go from normals back to global. And we're going to go to median point. We're going to hit G, X-axis, bring this over. And then hit 1 to go into vertices mode. Select these vertices here, G, Y-axis. Okay, hit 3, go to faces mode. And we're just going to select all these little faces that we just recessed here. Or kind of inset here, I guess you could say. Hit Extrude, Z-axis. Wow, what's going on here? Okay, Eat Extrude, bring them down just a little bit, not too much. Okay, Alt-H, bring everything back. And there's the fuselage. Looking pretty good. Okay, so now let's get started on the wings. But first things first, before you do anything else, we need to save, okay? I realize in a lot of these tutorials, I rarely ever tell you guys to save your work. So right now, let's hit Tab, turn off edit mode. Let's hit Control S, save. And right now, I'm in my, let's see, in my tutorial files. I'm going to go ahead and save this as X-Wing. Save. Okay, guys, remember, save early, save often, because you never know when a power outage is going to hit. I mean, if you're on a laptop, you have a battery, fine. But if you're on a desktop, hopefully you have a battery backup for your desktop. And if you don't, I definitely recommend one. It will save your butt if you're trying to render something out or something like that, because it gives you that little bit of extra time in order to save your work and close everything out. Okay, so another thing we need to do is we need to be good about naming our geometry. So I'm going to select our fuselage, and I'm going to double click here, fuselage. I don't know if that's a French word. It sounds very much like a French word. Okay, so fuselage is looking pretty good. Also, I think one thing we're going to do right now is we're going to select the fuselage. We're going to right click, hit select shade smooth. Looks terrible. So right now what we're going to do is go to object data properties, go to normals, click auto smooth. As you see, most of it looks pretty good. Although I think we're going to have to identify some edges. So one thing we need to do is, let's see, we got hit 2, go to edges mode. We're going to select these edges around the cockpit. And I think we'll go ahead and select, actually not that. We're going to select this edge here, down to here. Not these edges, just kind of these outer ones. Select these edges here. And then select these outer edges, right click, mark sharp. That kind of corrects everything, makes everything look nice and smooth, gets rid of those imperfections and everything. I mean, we're going to texture this thing later, so I mean, it's not going to be as noticeable, but just for any of you who have been, trying to set things to smooth and it looks terrible and you're wondering why, I mean, that's a neat little trick I've learned recently. And I mean, I've been using Blender for several years and I didn't know about that. That's why YouTube is such a great community for learning, and just, I mean, you never stop learning. I mean, I've been using Blender for 4 or 5 years, and I still consider myself a beginner when it comes to this stuff. Okay, guys, this concludes part 1 of building the fuselage. Please join me in the next video for part 2, where we will construct the wings, engines, and laser cannons. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to hit like, subscribe, and ring the notification bell to be notified when new content is delivered by the Imagination. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.